Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mathemagic channel. Today we're diving into a super useful algebra trick, which is splitting the middle term in quadratic equations. Let's get started. Make sure you stick around till the end of the video because I've included 3 practice questions for you to try at the end, as well as solutions. First, let's recall what a quadratic equation looks like. It's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Our goal today is to split the middle term, the bx term, which you see here, into 2 terms that help us factor the equation easily. Just to clarify, a quadratic equation is an equation called a parabola. It's in the shape of an umbrella and it's either facing up or facing down. So what do we do with it? Typically, we're interested in 4 key points: the x-intercepts, where the curve cuts the x-axis. We're interested in the minimum value of the quadratic, and we're also interested in the y-intercept. Today's video is all about finding the x-intercept through factorization, which is considered solving the equation, so it's a pretty big deal in math. So when you see a quadratic and you're trying to solve it, this should be how you think about the problem. Can I factorize it? If you can, then you've solved the equation, and if you can't, then you have to use the quadratic formula to solve it. Today's video is all about solving through factorization, so we're going to assume that we are in this kind of scenario where the equation can be factorized, and we find the 2 x-intercepts via the factorization technique we're about to show you. There is a prerequisite to learning how to factorize by splitting the middle term, and that is to know how to factorize by using a sum and product method. I would strongly suggest you learn this method first before learning the splitting technique. Here's an example of a classic factorization question which doesn't require splitting the middle term. Say you're trying to factorize x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0. We use what is called the product and sum technique, where we look for 2 numbers that multiply to 12, the last number, and 2 numbers which add up to 7, which is the number in the middle. If you think of all the possible factors of 12, 12 and 1, 6 and 2, 3 and 4, you can see that 3 and 4 is 12, which works well for the last term, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So we can factorize this expression as x plus 3x plus 4, and then look to solve it. Since we want this product to be equal to 0, x can be -3, which makes the first bracket 0, or x can be -4, which makes the second bracket 0, and we have successfully solved this quadratic equation, finding the 2 x-intercepts. Now, as a good suggestion as to how you should write them is in order, the small one first, and so -4 is smaller than -3, so we're going to write x1 as -4 and x2 as -3. Now here's where things get tricky. In this equation we notice there is a number in front of x squared. It's not just x squared, it's 2x squared. So with a question like this with a number in front of x squared, you need to look at whether splitting the middle term is a valid option. So here we go. The technique and the little trick is to write a times c, or to figure out what a times c is, and in this case a is 2 and c is 2. So a is the number in front of x squared and c is the last number. So we're going to multiply the first number by the last number, and we find that that's 4. And then we look at the product and sum technique with 4, and which numbers would add up to -5 and multiply to 4? Well, we think that that's 2 negative numbers probably, and those 2 negative numbers could be -4 and -1. So once you've realized that those 2 numbers, -4 times -1, do indeed multiply to 4 and add up to -5, then you're quite happy to split the -5x into -4x and -1x. Now what you do is you do a small factorization on each side of the equation. So 2x squared minus 4x simplifies nicely as a factorization to 2x factor of x minus 2. And then you notice if you take -1 out and factorize it from -x plus 2, you get -1 times x minus 2. And now you see a repeated factor which you're able to extract. If you had a situation with ab plus ac equals a times b plus c, you'd be quite happy to take that a out. Well, this is no different. You take the x minus 2 out, and you're left with x minus 2 factor of 2x minus 1 equals 0, and you have successfully factored this equation. Now, just like before, we want to know values which are going to send the bracket to 0. So notice here we took the x minus 2 out. And the first bracket would go to 0 for 2, and the second bracket for a half. However, we're going to put these in order. A half being smaller than 2, that'll be our first solution. And the second solution is going to be 2, which sends x minus 2 to 0. Here's another example. 3x squared plus 8x minus 3 equals 0. Again, we do 3 times -3 to get -9. So the first, the a times the c value, we think of factors of -9. -9 can have factors +9 and -1, and that seems to add up nicely to +8, which is the number in the middle. So we're going to split the 8 into 9x minus x. We've split the +8x into 9 minus 1. And again, we're going to do factorization for 3x squared plus 9x. We factor by 3x, saying this is 3x times x plus 3, and then -1 times x plus 3. Notice again that we have x plus 3 repeated as a factor here. So just like before, when you had ab plus ac equals a times b plus c, you could take that out. And so we're going to say that that's x plus 3 times 3x minus 1 and say that this is equal to 0. Now, if you wanted to send x plus 3 to 0, x should be -3. And if you wanted to send 3x minus 1 to 0, x should be 1/3. So we're going to go ahead and say that x1 is -3 and x2 is 1/3. And there you have it. We've successfully split the middle term and factored the quadratic equation. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more math tips and tricks. But don't go just yet, because there are 3 bonus questions for you to try right now. So good luck with these. So now it's your turn to practice. Go ahead and solve these. Pause the video because the solution is coming up in 5 seconds. So if you don't want a spoiler, I recommend you pause now and try them. And here they are. Here are the solutions. See you next time.